How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for February 22nd through February 28th of 2021. Just keeps on coming, and it don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming. Um, so, we just came off a lot. That was a lot that we just got done with, but we're done now. Mercury's now direct, the Saturn-Uranus square is done, kind of going over our list here. That's kind of it for the most part. It's kind of not necessarily, it's smooth sailing from here on out, really. Like, that was really the worst of it. My thumbnail that I did for this weekly was very, excited, and I think this week is definitely something to get excited for, simply because there's not a lot going on. And this week is very wet. This week is very moist. This week has a lot of feelings to it. And we haven't had, if you think about it, we haven't had a lot of water transits for a while. Think of Scorpio season, right? We saw the Mars retrograde and Mars direct, and Saturn was in Capricorn. Let me just jump over to Monday, why I'm even talking about this, or why I'm bringing this up. As we start this week off, Monday, the moon enters Cancer, and we get this nice little trine to the sun in Pisces. Now that Venus is separated from Mars, now that Mercury's direct, now that we're done with all that, and there's nothing too much going on, I really feel like this moon in Cancer transit's just going to hit differently. And I really think Monday's going to be very tender. Monday's going to be very, almost sacred in a sense. Monday is going to be very emotional, but it's in a sense, now that we're kind of done with everything, it's kind of like going on a really, I'm sure everyone's had, have you ever had a traumatic day? For me, it would have been I remember the day I broke my arm. I broke my arm at 8 in the morning, and I didn't get home from the hospital until around midnight. And it's just when you have one of those long days and you're just up from, the stress, you're up from the adrenaline, you're up from whatever, and then you finally get home and you get to pass out, and you collapse, you liquefy, you just, become mush. That's what Monday is. Monday really is, in my opinion. So if you guys ever been to my website, I've never done a reading on a Monday, and that's because I take Mondays off because Monday's ruled by the moon. The moon's going to be in its home sign of Cancer. Mondays are for vibing. Mondays are just for chilling out and doing what you need to. And I think with Monday, this is a very, I think it's definitely after one of those long stressful days that, we all kind of have every once in a while, and you get to go home and you get to sleep, and you just sleep for hours and hours. Like Forrest Gump, you just kept sleeping and sleeping. And I think that's what this is kind of is. The moon's in Cancer, where it's, the sun's in Pisces right now, right? The sun is illuminating our emotions, but this is Pisces, right? There's this sense of change. There's a sense of, things being adapted, things being integrated. And the moon in Cancer is going, wow, okay, I really feel things now. I really feel where things are headed. I really feel where things need to change. And that change is just, it's a process, dude. I think, again, of what is it, the Six of Swords, where it's the guy's on the boat, heading to a new direction or whatever. There's this sense of, all right, we're kind of going, the water's kind of cleared out now. We're not really going to the storm, but we're still moving on. And so I think, Mondays, there's not a lot of big transits. So I really think Monday's just a good day to just, reflect on how you feel. What did you just go through? And, for example, for me, after I got home from the hospital, I was I need to fucking sleep, and I need to get some food. And then I will think, and I will become a human again once those two things are fulfilled. And so the moon in Cancer is just take care of what needs to get taken care of. And I think it's just going to be a very touchy-feely day. So that's cool. I think that's cool because personally, you guys know me, I'm not always water signs. Yeah. I'm very oh no, water signs. This is okay, I'm down. This is cool. I can vibe with this. I think this is fun because there's no pressure here. There's no, everything's in Aquarius. Everything's an aversion to the sun. Everything's an aversion to the moon. There's nothing too harsh going on. But then we jump into Tuesday. And on Tuesday, that's when the moon is then going to make a trine to Neptune. And then the moon is going to be sextiling Mars throughout the day. So this is a little bit different. As the moon's in the later degrees, it makes that trine to Neptune, right? Neptune in Pisces is cool on one part, but also Neptune and Pisces just can really play with our emotions, because Neptune and Pisces is just, you know, what the fuck are we even, like, when you're scrolling on Twitter and you're scrolling everything, like, what are you even witnessing? What are you even watching? Like, Neptune and Pisces is, there's so much deception and distortion. Not just the media, but just all forms of media. Like, I mean, even me on YouTube, Neptune and Pisces is just kind of saturating a lot of it. Like, that's really what this transit is. And I think with the moon in Cancer, well, let me back up here too. Neptune's going to be in Pisces still for a while. So, like, this is just background noise, right? But with the moon in Cancer making that trine to Neptune on Tuesday, I think there can be, like, when the moon's trining Neptune, right? What we see or what we're unsure of or what we're uncertain of can really kind of play with our emotions. Like, I like to talk about when the moon is in Scorpio making the trine to Neptune. It's like, be careful what you see, because you could make up a whole story of what you think you see. That moon in Scorpio is like, oh, this is exactly how it is. This is how I see it. And that Neptune in Pisces is like, yeah, I can contort it to where that is what you think you see. And, you know, you'd be right. Same thing with the moon in Cancer trine Neptune. It's not necessarily bad on Tuesday. It's just like, it's super, like so for example, I used to sell cars, right? I used to be a really shitty human being, and I used to sell vehicles. No offense to anyone that sells vehicles out there. But when you're in sales, you're literally taught how to, like, manipulate people's emotions, like, as they walk into the store. Like, something like, if you ever go for a new car, this is the craziest trick I ever learned as a car salesman. What they'll do is, you'll go, hey, I want to look at this car. And they're like, okay, they go to the car, right? And you're looking at the car, and you're nodding your head, and you agree with the car. And the guy goes, so, are you interested in the car? And you'll be like, yeah. And what we're trying to do is just turn around and just start walking towards the office. Because what the customer does is they're so, like, they don't know what to do, so they just end up following you. And so you just take them straight into the store by just walking. You just walk and they just follow you. And I did it. It's like, it's the craziest thing in the world. But anyway, with the moon in Cancer trining Neptune on Tuesday, it's your emotion. Like, you guys, like, you have no idea how easy it is, like, in that moment, to realize how much, like, your emotions can get played. Like, when you think back, you're like, oh wow, I was really, you know, emotionally involved in that. I should have been a little bit less emotionally involved in that. And I think on Tuesday, that emotional involvement in things, that there's sensitivity, right? Suns in Pisces, moons in Cancer. Our boundaries aren't necessarily, like, down, but we're in vulnerable positions. So just like with the moon in Cancer trining Neptune, it's just like you're gonna feel things, you're gonna see things, you're going to there's gonna be a lot of creative imagination. Just don't let the spin cycle take you too far, right? You know what I mean? Like, you can go on the merry-go-round, but don't go so fast to where you start throwing up afterwards. And as well on Tuesday, the moon's going to be sextiling Mars after it makes a trine to Neptune. So, again, like I said last week, with Mars and Taurus, like, we're going slow for a reason. Also on, we have Mars trining Pluto on Wednesday, on the next day. But with the moon applying to Mars, we're going to start taking actions based off how we feel. So that moon trine Neptune is like, be careful, you know, don't let shit play with your emotions. You decide how you feel. You decide what's good for you. And with the moon sextiling Mars, if you're going to make an action, take your time. There is no need to rush. We are, you know, at the end of 2020, there was a need to rush, right? I don't know why. Maybe because everything was just, like, intense, but, like, you know, we're at this point, we're past the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Like, we're really in a whole new field at this point. Take your time. Like, there's no rush. And as the moon sextiles Mars on Tuesday, just be aware of what you're taking action on. And if you're not sure what to do, my advice is only take action on what's necessary. Like, Mars and Taurus, like, I know we've all been lazy and just been definitely exhausted, but Mars and Taurus, it's like all I've been doing has been, like, I take a shower because I love hot water, and I eat, and I've been getting my work done, and then, like, that's pretty much it. Mars and Taurus is gonna, like, take care of, like, the essentials, the necessities, and the moon in Cancer sextiling Mars and Taurus is like, just on Tuesday, just do what needs to get done if you're not sure what exactly you should be doing. We get into Wednesday, and the moon will go into Leo, and throughout the day, the moon will start making its way to an opposition with Saturn, and Mars will trine Pluto. So this is kind of interesting. Mind you, the moon is gaining in light. We're on our way to a full moon. That's right, the full moon in Virgo is this week. But as the moon ingresses into Leo, this is where, I said this in the March horoscope, and this is something I think about a lot. I'm surprised I haven't used this analogy before, but the Vince McMahon walk, like the whole, with the arms and everything, like that's very when the moon like ingresses into Leo. And there's this sense of, again, confidence. There's a sense of performance. And now, again, performance, people equivalent performance so negatively in the sense of like, oh, it's like fake or ingenuine, but it's much more of like, I feel like for one, it's having fun and living with some passion. But as the moon goes into Leo, there's this, pride that's kind of being put on the table. As the moon ingresses into Leo, it's going to start going opposite Saturn. So this is very much the moon in Leo is like, I need to make an impression because Saturn in Aquarius is a very big critic. Saturn is still squaring Uranus, which by the way, I mean, like, I want to also talk about the, I thought the Texas thing was so interesting. Sorry for everyone out in Texas, that's super fucking shitty. That's super shitty you guys had to go through that. But that Saturn Uranus, like, infrastructure cannot handle like a lot of the new shit that's kind of going on. And also just real quick, this might be a little controversial, but I want to also say, hey, you guys should look into nuclear energy because that would really solve a lot of electrical issues that we have, and like also thorium, look into it. Anyway, but I brought up that Saturn Uranus thing because the whole like electrical grid basically like failing thing, like that's gonna keep happening. Like that, what's really interesting about that type of story is that it's this mixture of not just like, yeah, it was like different weather, erratic weather, plus infrastructure failing. And that's really the Saturn Uranus. There's the sense of the structure and the sense of the unaccounted for coming at odds with one another. And so, like, just because the Saturn Uranus square just happened, like, it's still going to be prevalent for this whole year. So this is just kind of like, again, now that this is introduced, it's not going away anytime soon. However, as the moon makes this opposition to Saturn, makes this square to Uranus, this is definitely like, you know what? Like, this could be kind of show-offy. Like, try not to show off. Like, if you get cocky, like, you're definitely going to get, like, this is, when you see stuff like this, like, instant karma gets served really quick. But with the moon in Leo opposite Saturn, there's going to be the sense of, like, wanting to do it right. Wanting to do it the best way possible. The moon in Leo opposite Saturn in Aquarius is like, I'll show them. Like, I'm better than that. And so, in one sense, you're going to feel very prideful. You're going to feel and that might make you pop off, as some would say, you'd become unhinged. But, with the moon opposite Saturn, there's this, like, you're going to become criticized no matter what. There's Saturn Aquarius Interstellar is one of the best movies ever, and there's people out there that say it's bad. Like, you can't win every battle or war. Some things you just can't change. And I think with the moon opposite Saturn, there's that kind of respect at the same time of like, okay, this is how I feel, but this is what's going on. Moons, okay, for example, the whole everyone's pointing a gun to each other type meme analogy here. Like, in those situations, no one just starts shooting. Like, it just stays that way, right? And then there's usually a negotiation to bring things down. Like, there's this subtle mutual respect. And that's what you see, like, with fixed signs. Because the idea of the fixed signs is, like, it's not much more about, oh, who's going to win or who's going to be that, but much more about, like, how do we all start getting to this level of respect with the fixed signs to where tensions can get drawn down a little bit. And anyways, the moon goes into Leo. You're going to feel prideful. You're going to feel good, but just you're also going to feel like it's your Saturn opposite moon. Like, you're going to feel like this is very serious. You're going to feel like, it's for real. You're going to feel like, for one, self-judgment too, and self-criticizing, but just the pressure will be you'll feel the pressure, and you'll feel the need to be more performative than usual, or you'll feel the need to be more, seen than usual. And, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that's a good idea, only because the moon's squaring Uranus. Like, hey, if you put yourself out there, like, well, it's kind of like, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It's if you go to Vegas and gamble some money, yeah, sure, you could win, but you could also lose. That's kind of this moon in Leo. It's like, sure, you can go out, you can do your thing, but at what cost? So just think about that on Wednesday. Again, there's no need to go fast at this point. Just vibe. Just cruise like you're in LA and you're on the 405 at like 4 p.m. Just, hey, there's no rush. You're going to get there when you get there. Mars is going to trine Pluto, though, also on Wednesday. Which Mars and Taurus trining Pluto and Capricorn. This is where you feel like the momentum, I feel like, really build up. Like Mars and Taurus is going slow, but like that, it's like a train, right? That chugga chugga chugga, like it's not just like moving like that. A train is moving so much weight, and it's moving. It's got so much. It's got so much just energy behind it, so much mass. Like Mars and Taurus trining Pluto is like things are gonna start picking up speed here. And I swear to God, you guys watch my March horoscope. When Mars goes into Gemini, like I'm telling you, the tiredness, the slumber that we're gonna have is going away. This is the week to enjoy whatever peaceful energy you have. Like, again, this is a very wet week. This is a time to really just relax in those emotions. But, enjoy what this is. The chaos is over, right? From here on out, things kind of shift over. So take that time to really relax and open up. But with Mars trine Pluto, this is where you start to go, hey, like, okay, you start to see that momentum build up. That's like when you start to see that snowball effect where it goes from a snowball to where you go, oh, it's getting a little bigger. It's getting a little faster. We go into Thursday, and this is really when we hit, basically we start the peak of the week. Peak week. And we have the moon, which at first makes this opposition to Mercury and then Jupiter, which is very, the moon will go opposite Saturn, which the moon in Leo opposite Saturn in Aquarius is like, you make a performance, and Saturn in Aquarius is like, it's like Gordon Ramsay, right? I feel like that name, I'm using that name wrong. His name's Gordon Ramsay, right? Yeah, Hell's Kitchen. That's his name. It's like, he's going to criticize you and it's going to be bad. But then the moon separating from Saturn and then going straight to Mercury and Jupiter is like, you have your two friends are like, no, you're doing good. It's okay. Like, don't listen to him. Like, don't listen to him. You're doing fine. Like, there's this kind of like, you go to your friends to be like, hey, I kind of just took like a big L. Can you like support me a little bit more? And so as the moon goes opposite Mercury and Jupiter on Thursday, I think one thing is like, if you're going to be passionate, if you're going to do things big, you're going to get feedback. Like, and that's just, I guess, life. But I think on Thursday, it's much more to go like, you know what? Like, you could take feedback. But it's up to you to really, I guess, like take it. I think the moon going opposite Mercury is like, okay, work through that. Moon and Leo opposite Mercury and Aquarius too is very much like, individuating yourself from what, maybe certain consensus or certain ideas are kind of like pushing themselves. This is very, again, like looking at things from a bird's eye view almost in a sense. But as the moon goes opposite Mercury and Jupiter, opposite Mercury, it's thinking about those ideas. And then the moon opposite Jupiter is like, okay, let me expand on that. Like, let me really think about that. Let's like really dissect it. And so I think Thursday just has a lot of like philosophical implications. Thursday, at least with the moon and Leo, there's this, it's like, when you get criticized, you're like, oh, that kind of sucked. And then your friends are like, what, fuck that. And you're like, yeah, fuck them. Like, you start getting like excited and pumped. That's kind of like what Thursday looks like. Sounds fun if you ask me. Now, what also happens on Thursday is Venus goes into Pisces. Now, I've given this some thought. Now, Venus in Pisces, for one, awesome. This is, again, like I said, this is a very wet week. Venus going into Pisces is that melting period where you go, it's just when you have a shit day and like, especially like when I used to live in Denver, like there was nothing more I loved than like when I was out in the snow and everything and come home and take a hot shower and it was just like, you know what, like I just want to relax. I just want to like not give a shit. When Venus goes into Pisces, again, we haven't had a good Venus transit since Venus was in Libra, right? Sure, she did okay in Sagittarius. Sure, she did okay in Aquarius. But now that Venus has some dignity, I think things are going to really lighten up. And I think there'll be this bittersweet feeling. I say bitter simply because Venus is combust. So, if Venus wasn't so close to the sun, we'd be like, oh, things are great. I see this. I feel this. Isn't this wonderful? But Venus in Pisces combust is like, it's like, so for example, I'm from a small town. So one time, Jason Momoa was in town. And, I mean, people lost it because they were like filming some movie. And so you stay at the hotel. And there's like Venus and Pisces not next to the sun would be like going to go see the celebrity and be like, oh, this is so cool. If Venus combust, it's like, oh yeah, the celebrity's in town, but I'm not gonna go see it. Cool, that's there. And sure, everyone is hyper about it, but like I'm not gonna go see it. I'll see the pictures online. Venus, like the enjoyment's there, but it's not necessarily visible, right? It's not necessarily in your face all the time, but it is going to be subtle. But I do think it's going to be there. It's not like Venus and Pisces, you're going to feel the relaxing side effects of it, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily in your face. It's going to be like, when you find yourself, you're like, whoa, I'm actually more like when, you'll listen to peaceful music and you're like, whoa, I'm a lot more relaxed, more than I thought I was. Like you weren't even realizing it. Like that's much more of what this transit is. So I think on Thursday, vibe change for sure. Venus and Pisces, things get touchy-feely again. And with the moon and Leo, Leo, fire signs are emotional. Fire signs have a lot of passion. Fire signs got to feel from the heart. And so there's a lot of, I think on Thursday, things just really, change. And I think there's this much more enjoyment. There's much more fun involved. And I think this is, I think this is just an encouraging week. It's a very relaxing week. It's not the past, 6 months. And 6 months, it's not the past 8 months, really. That's the big thing. Because there was so much that really brought all of the past 8 months together. And this is so separated from that. And I think this is we've all been kind of feeling it. But I think this is where we get to the point where like, okay, time to move on. Things are changing. We are changing. What's next? What's new? But this is Pisces season, right? This is a mutable sign. You got to think of like tropical astrology was based off of the seasonal effects of the Earth. So think of Pisces season in the northern hemisphere, at least. I know all of you Australians are gonna be like, "Hey, that's not what it's like down here." But in the northern hemisphere, Pisces season represents the change from winter into spring, right? We're not exactly in spring yet, but we're getting there. There's a time and things don't just switch over. There's a change. There's a transmutation, a transformation that occurs, and we're just in the process of that right now. That process is really Pisces season when the sun goes into Aries and everything just really turns on. Then bam, the bread is done and we can take it out of the oven. But right now, things are still baking. Things are still in that process, and enjoy that process. Enjoy that change. Like it's don't waste what opportunity you have to reflect, I think, with this time, and what opportunity you have to really go through the process of changing. So Thursday looks cool. We get into Friday, though. Friday, the moon is going to square Mars before it ingresses into Virgo. So the moon will go at late degrees Leo, square Mars. Friday morning, again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That moon in Leo squaring Mars and Taurus. Like, just don't let your pride get in the way. Know when to stop. Know when enough is enough. Know when you gotta cool down and calm down for your own sake. And because again, the moon is increasing in light at this point. We're almost to the full moon. In fact, on Friday it is gonna be the full moon. And right before the full moon, the moon in Leo is gonna square Mars and Taurus. It's like, you can't win every battle, and you putting your pride into everything isn't going to work anymore. So stop exhausting yourself. That's the big thing with this fixed sign stuff. It is exhausting. It is when, imagine everyone's got guns pointed at each other like the movies, and everyone's, there's a big square off, right? Imagine doing that for hours, for weeks. That the mental exhaustion, your cortisol levels are rising, your adrenaline's just, drained. Like, it's exhausting. Like, just know when to I don't want to say give up, but I would say it's not necessarily give up. It's just like, don't do like, take the path of least resistance. Like that is the most important thing right now. If there's some resistance, hey, listen to it. If you are opening a door and you are trying to push it and it is a pull door, maybe stop and look and pull the door open instead of trying to push it. It's just that simple. It's just really really feel things out for yourself. But after the moon goes into Leo, later in the day, the moon will go into Virgo on Friday, and then this is what's cool is the moon goes into Virgo, makes that opposition to Venus in Pisces, which is very like, oh, hey, when I read the directions of the door, things, maybe it's like, you instead of getting angry at the door, you read it and then you open the door and then it's like, you open the door for someone who's like really hot and you look like really good doing it or whatever. Like that's one of these moments. It's like, sometimes you can get instant justice when you just like really learn something like quickly, right? This is one of those moments. The moon is going to go into Virgo, go exactly opposite Venus. Like the moon in Virgo is also, the moon is now illuminated. This is the sign of Virgo, looking at the specifics, looking at the details. The one way I'd like to look at this too is with all of this wet water sign stuff that we've got going into, with all this Aquarius stuff, this is really laying it out on the table going, okay, what did we just go through? What are we doing here? What is next? This is getting your shit together. This is, almost like unpacking from your trip. You just got home. I said to throw everything in the washer, throw everything, neatly organize everything again, and get clear. This is, I think, the time to really also look at the details. With the moon opposite, Venus is in Pisces. It's not necessarily so much to, it's a full moon. The full moon in Virgo is definitely a time to look at the details. For example, music. It can get so easy when you're creating music to get, super sucked in just to the sound, and you can make the details shit, and you're like, oh, fuck the details. And then you get into the details, and then you focus too much on the details, and then the whole sound just sounds off. This is about balancing that out, reconciling the specifics to the sound. Like, okay, how do I want things to look versus what can I actually get done? What is actually, in reality at this moment? And there's again, it's a conversation. It's a dialogue essentially. And so with the full moon, with this full moon opposite Venus, this is very much like, for one, what's good right now? Like straight up, Sun, Venus, and Pisces, full moon in Virgo. Hey, let's take stock. What am I enjoying? What am I not enjoying? What did I just learn? What the fuck did I just go through? Because again, this is a whole lot, and I think this is really catching up to pace with everything. But this also looks, in my opinion, like fun. I think Friday, this is really like, I don't know. Friday just seems like nice. Like things seem clear. There's change. Like it's very. This is a full moon in mutable signs. There is an illumination of change. Clearly, there are things that are changing. And we don't know what's next. We don't know what exactly moving forward looks like. Mercury's making its way towards Jupiter. We have a lot of hope. We have some skepticism, but we do have some hope. But I think with all of this stuff, this is really, let's just enjoy it for once. No matter what we're going to go through it, why don't we just enjoy it? Again, Mars is in Taurus at this point. Like, we're still going slow. But as we get more motivated, as we get more excited, that is going to pick up pace. And of course, Mars moves into Gemini once we get into March. So trust me, things will pick up pace here in a minute. Enjoy this process. We get into Saturday. Saturday, the moon goes opposite Neptune. That's really it. Again, what I like about the moon in Virgo opposite Neptune is being able to go like, no, that's... Like there's, again, the moon in Virgo is being able to pick apart things. Like I love moon in Virgo. As much as social media is super bad, that's a fun day to go online, is those moon and Virgo opposite Neptune days, because it's the shit talking's going down. And I think with the moon opposite Neptune, this is very much, well, it's kind of like back in the old days when you'd have a night out, and you would say, oh, I know how much money is in my bank account. I'm going to swipe my card. I'm going to go out for a night on the, night on the town, have some drinks or whatever. And then you think you know how much money you spent. and then you look at your account the next morning, you're like, oh fuck, I spent way more money. That's the moon in Virgo opposite Neptune in Pisces. Just taking account of things, and it all becomes very clear. Like, you know, we love to live in a fantasy sometimes. Like, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Like Neptune, and that's Neptune in Pisces. It's just like, oh, you know, if I don't pay attention to it, it doesn't really exist. And the moon in Virgo is like, yeah, it does actually. So I think the moon in Virgo, I don't think this is necessarily like a bad transit. It's just very much like, okay, you know, if for one, you should stop, you should be much more on top of your money and not just be spending money going on the club and not knowing how much you're spending. But I think with this moon in Virgo, again, the moon is now starting to wane. The moon is now decreasing in light. And I think this moon in Virgo opposite Neptune is like, all right, let's get clear. Like, let's get realistic here. What are we actually looking at? Because Neptune in Pisces is like your drunk friend, or your it's like Neptune in Pisces is like the super crazy conspiracy theorists that are like, I mean, like, you read the thing and you're just like, I don't even know what's going on. And the moon in Virgo is like, okay, let's actually dissect that, because this is crazy. Like, this is way too much. So I think the moon in Virgo is, it's a surrendering to like, okay, you know what? This is going to take some time, but let's really organize this. This is a fucking mess, but let's get through it. Let's get these details. Let's just, you know, for example, like, I'm moving right now, and this is going to be like, I think for me, probably around this time, this is going to be like me getting, you know, make sure the U-Haul reservation's good, the date's good, like everything, like getting just checking off the checklist. That's what this is, really. You know, we can, like, for example, for me moving, it's like, you know, I have it in my head how everything's going to go, but until like I fulfill that checklist, get everything done, it's not real. And that's that moon in opposite this type. It's like, by the time we get to Saturday, things really start to look real, because we're doing what it takes. We're checking off the list, essentially. Then we go into Saturday, and we end February with the moon ingressing into Libra, making, at first, a trine to Mars before it ingresses into Libra, and then, of course, moving into Libra. So as the moon's at the end degrees of Virgo, trining Mars, you know, when you got that checklist, you know, when you wake up on time and you have your schedule, you make your breakfast, and you're early, you have time to relax. You have time to chill out. And with that moon in Virgo is like, when you're, like, with the moon in Virgo on Sunday, trining Mars, is like, when you get your shit together, you have some time to kill. You have some time to have fun. Mars and Taurus doesn't want to do shit. Like, it just do your homework first. Do your homework at school, so then when you get home, you don't have to do anything. That's the moon in Virgo trining Mars and Taurus. Like, just, I mean, get it done. Like, aren't you motivated? Like, just, I don't know. Because as the moon trines Mars, and we're kind of like, you know, it's like, all right, we cross our T's, we dot our I's, we're good. We're all packed up and ready to go. Then the moon goes into Libra, and I'm telling you, these Libra moon transits are like this every 30 days, or every 28 days, 29 days, whatever. Just look forward to those moon and Libra transits, because that moon in Libra applying to Saturn, then applying to Mercury, applying to Jupiter, like, this is going to be so nice. Especially on the first. That's why I'm also glad I chose the first to move, because it's a great day to move into a house. Look at this. I mean, just look at this. This is when I'm moving in. This is also my lunar return. Moon's trining Mercury and Jupiter. Like, I know, I did a great job. And it just so happened to be on the first of a month, too. But anyway, the moon going into Libra, you know, this is balancing things out, finding some peace, finding some order, finding some justice, right? You know, what's right, what's wrong. And as the moon goes into Libra, starts, you know, eventually applying to Saturn, this is very much going, you know, let's, you know, make sure everything's in order. Let's, you know, balance things out, essentially. Now, I'm gonna stop on my commentary on the moon in Libra at this point, because the moon in Libra will eventually, well, as we get into next week, Mars will go into Gemini and Mercury will conjoin Jupiter. So this air stuff, we got a lot of air stuff coming up here. So this moon in Libra really kicks off next week. Now, again, next week, Mars enters Gemini, Mercury conjoins Jupiter. That's it, but that's enough. Like, Mars and Gemini, I'm telling you, it's go time. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter. This is like, oh, what? This is seeing the opportunity. This is seeing the new vision. This is like, okay, I get where things are headed. Okay, I get what's next. I get where I got to go and what I got to do. And so again, let's recap this week. Just relax. Like, do what you got to do. If you really want to relax, take care of your shit first. And just, you know, it's been a hard ass 8 months. I mean, like, I mean, this is actually, 2020 has actually been a great year. There's a lot of shit I had to go through, but like, I mean, I've heard so many stories of people, I can't even imagine. So many people are just going through so much shit, and it's just like, at this point, your overall well-being and your happiness and your mental health is so much more important than I think anything at this moment. Like, I mean, if the mental toll that all of this is taking is so not worth it at this point. Like, do what you got to do to start like having a hope and a faith again. Like, that's kind of like, I think, the fun part of Pisces season. And I think what that takes is this week, and that just takes relaxing, like unwind, you know, take a, like, just crash, you know, it's like, again, when you get home from a trip and you just crash on the couch and you know, you don't even take off your shoes at the door. You're like, I just want to fucking crash right now. That's what you should do this week. Crash for a minute. Don't leave your stuff in the car. Like, bring your stuff in, unload it, throw it in the washer, throw it in the dryer, and then just crash, because next week you're gonna go, okay, time to get back to work. So with that being said, I think that's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. Of course, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.